Hi, hello, and welcome back. Or, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Heather. This is Miss Finn. And in this video, I'm recapping my 15th and 16th weeks of treatment with Spravato. Spravato, or esketamine, is an FDA-approved treatment for treatment-resistant depression that's derived from part of the ketamine molecule. It's a dissociative anesthetic, meaning it causes dissociation, and I also have a dissociative disorder. So, in this series, I share my experiences and tips and tricks that I learn along the way, and my overall progress as I undergo this treatment. I'll put my list of tips and tricks up here on the screen real quick for you to screenshot if you'd like. And for a more in-depth explanation as to why each of these things are on the list, check out my week 3 video. I'll put a link up top and in the description for you to check that out. And I am going to do a standalone video with my tips and tricks and why I recommend them. I just wanted to wait until I felt confident I didn't have anything else to add, and now I just haven't had the time yet. But it is coming. I like to begin these videos with a recap of what my weeks were like outside of treatment, like any changes that I've noticed, improvements, setbacks, etc. But if you want to skip ahead to the treatment experiences, that's totally fine. I'll put a timestamp here for you if you want to do that. This episode is kind of a throwback to my earlier Spravato days in that it includes 2 treatment experiences. What is going on with my hair? I decided it would be a good idea to try Velcro rollers for the first time today. You know, when I needed to film a video and am pressed for time. I was going for soft waves, and I ended up with this. Moving on. The last few weeks have been pretty good, despite one minor temporary setback. And I also got some good news. I've been approved for more Spravato treatments. Yes. In fact, I have 3 treatments this month alone. I know, surprising increase in frequency given where I'm at in treatment. For those of you who don't know, a typical course of treatment with Spravato is that for the first month you go twice a week, then the second month you go once a week, and for the third, maybe 4 months, you do it once every 2 weeks for a total of about 16 treatments. Obviously, that's subject to change depending on your provider and how you're responding to the treatment, but as it was explained to me by my provider, that's a typical course of treatment. And then after you've done the 16 treatments, ideally you would continue to go once a month for up to a year, just as monthly maintenance and to help prevent a relapse. I've responded really well to the treatment. I mean, my PHQ-9 score has been 1 out of 27 for the last month or more, even as I decreased the frequency of treatments. So after my 16th treatment, I assumed I'd be going down to once a month. But no. Instead, I have 16, 17, and 18 all a week apart. And then I have another one in January. I have no problem with that. The more the better, in my opinion. It was just unexpected that I went back to once a week. And I'm still waiting to hear back as to why we're doing that. And I'll report back to you once I know. I haven't noticed any changes in my mood or symptoms since going back to once a week. But then again, my PHQ-9 score has been 1 out of 27 for over a month now, so it's not like there's really much left to improve. I have noticed a change in my dreams, though. It's been more like my first or second month of treatment, where they're really vivid and emotionally charged. Thankfully, not bad dreams. For instance, the other night, I dreamt that I ran into a bunch of my friends from middle and early high school, and it just felt like I was running into them after not seeing them for 15 plus years. But then for most of the entire next day, I still felt the same emotions that I had in the dream. Like, I don't even know what it is. It almost feels like longing for them. I don't know. I'm curious to know if you guys experience this or something similar, where you have a really emotionally charged dream and then still feel the emotions from your dream into the next day. Let me know in the comments. So far, still no signs of my seasonal affective disorder, which That's been a major concern for me, and I know a concern for a number of you as well. I'm hopeful that I won't struggle with it so much this year, but winter only really just started here, so that remains to be seen. The minor temporary setback I referred to is the nationwide shortage of Adderall, and there's no end in sight for that. Yeah, not good news. So I've been rationing my Adderall and definitely feeling it, but nowhere near as much as I would have before Spravato. That's for sure. And I know a number of you guys take Adderall as well, and I'm curious to know if you've also been doing Spravato, and assuming you haven't been able to take your Adderall, if you've noticed an improvement, or if you're doing better than you anticipated. Let me know in the comments. I think that does it for the weekly recap. I do have a couple of announcements, though, that I'm saving until the end, so be sure to stick around for those. Even though this was my 16th treatment, for some reason, it felt more like my second treatment, or my first time at the maximum dose. Everything started out just fine. I wasn't with Alice, which was a bummer, but my tech and nurse were still great. I've been with them before, don't have any problems with them. One seemingly small but actually significant downside is that instead of being in one of the Spravato treatment rooms with the big, comfy reclining chairs, I was in one of the TMS rooms. And it's still a really nice room, still very spa-like, but the downside is that the chairs are very different. They still recline, but they're more like a dentist chair / hospital bed with a remote to adjust the back, the legs, the height, etc. The movements are very jarring, and I struggle with the remote even when I'm not under the effects of Spravato, and just can't seem to get into a comfortable position in them. For some reason, whenever I'm laying in them, I constantly have the sensation that my legs are higher than my head. The armrests aren't as tall either, so I'm constantly afraid that my phone's gonna slide off of my lap during the treatment, and that's distracting. So anyway, I go into the room, get situated in the chair, and the nurse... Oh, hi.
Breathing heavy.
Her paw is tucked.
Oh my gosh.
Hello, little lady. You got some tucked paw? You're such a good girl. Where was I? For unknown reasons, my blood pressure and pulse were really low. It's happened a couple of other times before, and it's not actually a problem. Like, it doesn't prevent me from getting the treatment. But I think it was a factor in what happens later, which we'll get to. So I'm all situated in the chair, talking with the nurse and the tech. Every few minutes, the nurse would bring me my next dose of Spravato. The usual. A few minutes after I got my third dose, I wasn't able to hold a conversation anymore. So I kicked back, put on my breathing exercises and guided meditations as usual, but they didn't work. I was so caught up in what I was feeling that I couldn't even focus on them. For some reason, it felt like my first time at the maximum dose. Like, really intense and disorienting. And that alone gave me a little bit of anxiety, only because it was so unexpected, and I didn't know why it was so intense. And as soon as I crack open that door to all of my anxious thoughts, they blow the door off the hinges and come pouring in. Why am I feeling like this? Is there something wrong? Is my blood pressure too low? This isn't normal. Am I having a medical emergency? How would the tech even know if I don't say anything? Just my usual shit. For the record, I've never actually had something bad happen during treatment. Ever. This is literally just my own health anxiety that has plagued me for years, though has gotten significantly better since starting Spravato. Anyway, so I'm all worked up, and the only voice of reason that could break through all that noise was the thought, I've literally done this 15 times before. I'm fine.
Is this not the poster child of a person who is fine?
A reason? During a panic attack? Good luck.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
My only life raft in these situations is my breathing exercises and guided meditations.
Oh my God, I don't know what to do.
So I fought to concentrate on those as best as I could, and thankfully, after about 10 minutes of that, I mostly got things back under control. The best way I can describe it is it's like tumbling and free falling through the air and wondering if your parachute's gonna open. And then it does. And you gently come back down to earth. As I did my breathing exercises and guided meditations, I was very aware of how and why they help so much. And I think at every treatment while I'm doing them, I have the thought, I should do a video going over these. In the moment, I always think it would be incredibly helpful. But then outside of treatment and not under the effects of Spravato, I'm just like, what? Nobody wants that. I know if I hadn't done Spravato yet, I would pass on the breathing exercises and guided meditations. Like, I'm fine. But I am telling you guys, and if you've watched my other videos, you know, these particular breathing exercises and guided meditations completely transformed my experience from being kind of miserable and something to endure to being some of the best experiences I've had in my life. So that's why I thought it might be helpful to go through them with you and kind of explain what you might be experiencing in that moment and why that breathing exercise or guided meditation is so helpful. I'm just going to leave it up to you guys. You let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like. Also, my treatment playlist with these breathing exercises and guided meditations and then some music for afterward is public and you can use it if you'd like to. Not surprisingly, having all that anxiety, or really more like a panic attack, affected my overall experience during treatment. Between the anxiety or panic attack and having to be mindful of keeping my phone from falling on the floor, I wasn't really able to relax and let go and just let my mind wander. However, I did still see some things, at least initially. So there's 2 Korean shows that I've been really into lately called The King's Affection and Under the Queen's Umbrella. And at first, it looked like I was swooping in from the sky like a bird into this one area that's in one of the opening shots of Under the Queen's Umbrella. But I didn't stop. I just kept flying and flew into one of the areas of the palace in The King's Affection. And I came upon the Crown Prince. And there's 2 types of shots that happen quite frequently in the show. There's the arm swoop, or catching someone as they fall, and their eyes meet and they stare into each other's eyes. And the other one is just kind of slow motion shots, usually of the Crown Prince's face. And I just kept seeing the Crown Prince in these slow motion shots and felt like I was the character in the show who's in love with the Crown Prince and is usually the one who experiences these slow motion shots. The only thing that was different from the show is that I kissed the Crown Prince and was seeing us kiss up close and from all different angles, like it does in the show. But this scene I was in isn't in the show. It's just the thing that I always wish would happen between the 2 characters. And then after that, I don't remember anything. And I don't think I fell asleep either. But I could have. To make things even more unusual, it took a long time for the effects of the Spravato to wear off. I have no clue why. I don't think that's happened to me before. At least not to this extent. Like, when it was time for me to go, I couldn't get out of the chair. It took me about 15 minutes of just sitting there trying to get my shit together before I could actually get up and leave. But even after we left, I was still loopy and out of it for probably a good 30 minutes. I don't know why. In hindsight, I have a couple of theories as to why this might have happened. Mind you, I am not a medical professional and I have no clue what I'm talking about. But I wonder if my blood pressure being lower than usual had anything to do with it. Although, my blood pressure's been really low a few other times, and I don't remember it taking a long time for the effects to wear off. So I don't know. Also, I realized later that the nurse spaced out the doses a lot more than what I'm used to. In the beginning of my treatment, we would wait like 5 to 7 minutes in between the doses so that it wasn't too intense or overwhelming for me. But for the last month or two, primarily when Alice is my nurse, she gives them to me what seems like 1 to 2 minutes apart. So I wonder if the effects took longer to wear off this time because I was getting the doses over the course of like 15 minutes rather than 5 or 6. I don't know. That was about it for that one. Based on my experience the week before, I was anticipating having a similar one this time. I had the same nurse and tech as I did the week before, but thankfully was in one of the Spravato rooms with the comfy chairs. But I was still prepared for space catting this time, and it was totally unnecessary. Once I got situated into my chair, I put on my breathing exercises and guided meditations, and thankfully eased into things as usual. And the first thing I saw was the stucco or stone wall that I've seen a few times. And I just stared at it for a few moments before I got pulled into it. And as soon as I went into the wall, I was in space. But not blasting through it like I normally do. This time, I was in my own little bubble, just slowly moving upward in space. I don't know where I was going. And I alternated between seeing myself inside the bubble and actually being in the bubble. And then all of a sudden, everything sped up. And the bubble disappeared into like a black hole kind of thing. And the black hole expanded to take up my entire field of view. And right in the center of all of this darkness was a pinhole of light that came rushing toward me and stopped. I don't know the distance. It wasn't right in front of my face. But it was just this square of light surrounded in darkness. This is something I've also experienced before. I'm not sure if I have during treatment, but I've experienced it many times during meditation. I call it the Viewmaster thing, and those of you who are old enough will know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't know, a Viewmaster is a special format stereoscope that had these reels of color 3D images that you could view through them. Sounds lame, but blew my mind as a kid. The picture didn't take up the entire field of view, and there was a knob? Handle? Why can't I think of what it's called? There was a thing on the side that you'd pull down with your finger and it would rotate the reel to the next image and you just go through them like that. But now back to the treatment. What I was seeing was what an empty Viewmaster looked like. Just a white square of light, a Viewmaster's view distance away from me. This Viewmaster thing started happening to me during meditation about 12 years ago. After I took a meditation class, I would just be sitting there with my eyes closed and I would start to see images of things, sometimes moving ones, that would flip through the way a reel does in a Viewmaster. But the things that I would see weren't memories of mine or things that I even recognized. They always seem like I'm watching someone else's home videos or going through their old photographs or their memories. It's really weird. That's a story for another time. Anyway, back to the treatment. So the Viewmaster thing came up, And at first, it looked like I was in a swing, getting pushed by someone. But then it zoomed out, and I was watching a woman pushing a little boy on a swing. And I have no clue who they were. They weren't familiar to me, nor was the place or setting they were in, or we were in. As I was watching this, I was very aware that it was the Viewmaster thing, and I was asking myself things like, who are these people? But I never got any kind of answer. And then the reel changed, and it was another video, you get what I mean, of the same woman, but now she was sitting in front of me on those things that kids sit on a playground that just spins. And it was like I was sitting in the center of that, and she was sitting on the outside, and we were facing each other. And she was just kind of smiling and laughing and trying to keep her hair out of her face as we were spinning on this thing. I have no clue who she is, or who the little boy is, or where we were. And then the image changed again, and now it looked like I was on a roller coaster. Again, not one that I recognize, and I'm pretty sure I've never been on, because I haven't been on many roller coasters in my life. But I was on this roller coaster, and oddly enough, I didn't feel like I was moving. I know I've described in other Spravato trips having the sensation that I was moving, but with these Viewmaster images, I didn't feel like I was moving at all. Just seemed like I was literally watching home movies being played on a screen in front of me. And it was around this point when the tech came over to check my blood pressure and took me out of the Viewmaster experience. But once that was done, I readjusted how I was sitting and settled back in. And almost right away, I was in a forest at night looking up at the sky, and there were these 3 blue lights above the trees in a triangle formation. It was a UFO, or a UAP. And I remember thinking of Travis Walton as I stared up at this UFO slowly drifting above me. Travis Walton is the guy who Fire in the Sky was about, who claims to have been abducted by aliens. Pretty interesting story. But anyway, I was thinking, okay, cool. Let's have a UFO experience. But as soon as I had that thought, the UFO drifted out of my field of view, and the trees around me receded and disappeared into the ground. And now I was on a steep slope covered in snow. And I was about halfway up the slope, and at the bottom of it were lodges or something. And as I turned to start going down this slope, I heard or got the impression that there was someone behind me saying, "Hey, wait up." So I looked back at where I had just been looking, only now our little buddy Timothee Chalamet was skiing down the slope toward me. And once he got to me, I was like, "Really? You again?"
Don't be fucking rude.
And we just headed down the mountain toward the lodges, and I was pretty amused that I was skiing down a mountain with Timothee Chalamet. I don't recall if we ever made it to the lodges, because all I remember after that was seeing different landscapes of snow and mountains and forest at night. I don't know where these places were supposed to be. They just seemed very Nordic or Scandinavian, like a lot of the places in the Grand Tour, a Scandi flick. And I remember just kind of wishing I was there in one of those places, which, not a huge fan of the cold, but because of something Bessel van der Kolk said in a YouTube video I saw a while back.
There's other societies that are much more trauma savvy than we are, where there is not an enormous amount of income inequality. Healthcare is universal, childcare is universal. A culture like that really looks at what are the antecedents for certain forms of pathology.
And I wondered what it's like to live in one of those places. And I wondered what's possible or available in those places, and if I would receive better care there. It wasn't too long after that I realized my regular thoughts were filling up my brain. And even though it had only been an hour, I was pretty much back to normal. Yeah, no idea why. The week before lasted a lot longer than usual. This time, oh, she's stretching. And then this time, cleared up a lot faster than usual. Even though I felt fine, I still stayed for another 45 minutes or so. And we just talked about what treatment has been like for me, and this channel, and the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which if you haven't seen that video yet, be sure to check it out. Before I wrap this up, I have a couple of announcements. I have the summary for Part 1, Chapter 1 of The Body Keeps the Score ready to record, so that should be coming out soon. In case you haven't heard, I'm doing videos summarizing each chapter of The Body Keeps the Score because it's on a lot of people's reading lists and not everyone has the time to read it. Also, keep your eye out for a special Christmas video coming out soon. I'd like to start posting 2 times a week, and I have a couple of ideas for content that would make that possible. So I'm going to try one out in a Christmas video and then a different video, which you'll see. Please let me know if you guys like them, and if so, I'll do more in the future. And then lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for your support with this channel over the last few months. I've never really cared about how many subscribers this channel gets, but when I started posting my Spravato journey back in August, I thought, if I get 50 subscribers by the end of the year, I'd consider that a success. And I really thought that was a long shot because I haven't told anyone about this channel, and I haven't posted about it on my mostly dead social media profiles. And at the time of recording, we have, well, let's see. We have 96 subscribers. And I think by the end of the year, we'll have reached 100. Double my highest goal or aspiration for this channel. And that is 100% because of you guys. The first 100. None of this would have been possible without you guys. And honestly, you guys have been the best part of my Spravato journey. I have no idea where this channel will ultimately go, but I do know that no other milestone will feel as special to me as this one does. You guys have done so much for me, and I'd like to do something to give back to you as a token of my appreciation. So if you guys have ideas, please let me know in the comments, whether it's a Q&A or maybe a live hangout or baggies of little blonde mustaches courtesy of Miss Finn. Whatever you guys would like. Okay, I'll let you go now.
Like, subscribe, comment, blah, blah, bloody blah. Thank you very much.
Say goodbye, Finn. Okay, bye.